I'm Sarah Lomax Reese. I'm the president and CEO of WURD Radio, and we are really excited about partnering with some amazing organizations to have today's conversation. Higher Heights, this is Glenda Carr to my left, who is the co-founder of Higher Heights, an amazing organization that is focused on cultivating African-American women leaders and political leadership in the country and locally. So we're really excited to partner with Higher Heights. This is Women's History Month, so we got it in right under the wire to do a wonderful conversation with powerful Black women about Black women leadership. And we also are partnering with New Voices for Reproductive Justice, and this is Latasha D. Mays. She's the founder of that amazing organization that's really about looking at women's health and women's advocacy on so many fronts. And we're also partnering with DP Bell and Associates. Desiree Peterkin Bell is going to be our moderator for today. And I emailed Desiree, it is so nice to work with can-do women. I mean, it is, we do a lot of events and a lot of partnerships, and this has just been a real joy working with all of these organizations. And I also want to give a particular shout out to our sponsors for today. PICO and Ramona Risco Benson is over here, and yes, and Afia Ohin Frempong is here, and she works closely with us in PICO, at PICO as well. And we also have Comcast, Minnie from Comcast is here representing them, so we're really grateful to Comcast. And Keystone First is our other sponsor for today, so we're really, really grateful. And so I think at this point I'm going to turn it over to Desiree to lead us through the conversation. Can you guys hear me? Is the mic on? No, mic is not on, but I have a loud voice. We need to use it. Let me say one other thing. We are recording this conversation for rebroadcast on WURD later this week. So when we get to the Q&A phase of this program, just be mindful that it's going to be on the radio. Okay? It's not just us in the room. All right.
Yay, well, thank you so much. Now you guys can hear me, right? First, let me just say, y'all look beautiful. This is a Palm Happy Sunday. Y'all look pretty. Thank you. And to the allies in the room, to the men, thank you. We appreciate you too. Y'all look good too. All right. My name is Desiree Peterkin Bell, and I'm the president and CEO of DP Bell and Associates, and we're excited to be sponsors of this afternoon's brunch. We are going to have amazing conversation, and I'm so excited to be joined with some amazing trailblazing women. So a couple of things. Number one, I'm coming off an amazing high of seeing our young people, particularly our Black and brown young voices, who shared their stories, their pain, their trauma, but elevated their experience on an international level. And so I was with many of them yesterday, Naomi Wadler being one of them, and felt so much power. And my daughter, who's 9.5 years old, literally looked at me and said, "Mom, you can use my voice too." And I was like, that's it. That's it. I'm done. So now to be here with some amazing women who are serving on this panel is quite exhilarating way to end the weekend. So our panelists, Sarah Lomax Reese, you guys know her, President and CEO of WURD. Glenda Carr, co-founder of Higher Heights. Now a little bit about who Higher Heights is and what Glenda has been fighting for a while. So Higher Heights seeks to elevate Black women's voices, to shape and advance progressive policies and politics by strengthening Black women's civic participation in grassroots advocacy, campaigns, and the electoral process. Higher Heights for America will create the environment in which more Black women and other candidates who are committed to advance policies that affect Black women can be elected to public office. So a round of applause for Glenda Carr. woman who needs no introduction, Marian Tasco. But she still gets an introduction. So former councilwoman and majority leader, and I call her a divine icon here in this city. Please, a hand of applause, a round of applause for Marian Tasco again. Also joining, we have Latasha Mays, who is an amazing, amazing person, woman, founder of New Voices, which promotes the complete health and well-being of Black women and girls in the greater Pittsburgh region and the entire state. Latasha, thanks for being a partner, and thank you for your work.
Thanks for having me.
And last but certainly not least, we have the amazing Jasmine Sessoms, who is the founder of She Can Win.
Yeah.
Promoting women in civic leadership. And another big shout out to all of our sponsors, AmeriHealth, Keystone First, Pico, Comcast, and my team here. So I want to say a lot of this stuff, you know, you never do it by yourself. So a round of applause, please, for Afia Tucker, who's here, and Brina Hilson from my team. So thank you, ladies, for helping me get it done. All right, where are we? All right, so this year marks the 50th anniversary of the late Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm's run and election to Congress. In 1968, Shirley Chisholm became the first Black woman elected to the United States Congress when she was chosen to represent New York's 12th district. Today, Congress has 21 inspiring Black women who span varying generations, states, and policy perspectives. Shirley Chisholm once said, "At present, our community needs women's idealism and determination, perhaps more in politics than anywhere else." We think you would agree that that's in fact the case. Black women have played a pivotal role in our country, but particularly in helping to move it forward. So I want to get right into panel questions right now. We hear this Black girl magic and Black women lead, but those are not just hashtags or slogans. What does this mean, especially to your organization and the work you do every day? Glenda, we're going to start with you. What does that mean?
This is absolutely our season. Kimberly Pillar Allen, the other co-founder, and I founded Higher Heights in a Brooklyn cafe, a cafe that kind of looked like South. And it was at a time, it was actually the 2010, right after the 2010 midterms, when we all thought that the bottom had fallen off. Who knew that 16 was coming? And I was trying to figure out my role in the progressive community. I was tired of being in rooms where I was waving at the other chocolate drop in the room, like going, hey, Aaron, how you doing, right? And that we needed to create spaces uniquely designed for and by Black women to truly step into and harness our power. So Higher Heights was born, and we are building the political home for Black women from the voting booth to elected office, for us to find a space, for us to be in rooms like this to talk about how do we not only harness the power that everyone else knows we have, but to actually use that power to influence elections, to elect more Black women. So this season is, on November 8th, 2016, I was in Cleveland, Ohio, working on our Black Women Vote program. And I went to bed before the election was called and woke up the next day. And the narrative obviously was, we anticipated that there was going to be this shattering of this glass ceiling. You know, many of my friends were in New York at the Javits Center. If you've ever been at the Javits Center, it's like the ceiling is glass. And so although that glass didn't break and Black women weren't on the headlines that day, two things happened on November 9th, well, three. Obviously, the country moved in a different direction, but Black women continue to try to drag this country forward by voting 94% to move this country forward. But we also elected the largest number of Black women serving in Congress, including the second Black woman to serve in the U.S. Senate. We elected the largest number of Black women serving in state legislatures across this country, including Attica Scott, who is the first Black woman to serve in the Kentucky legislature in 20 years. We elected the largest number of mayors. In 2014, there were only one Black woman serving in a major city as a mayor in Baltimore. We now, today, have 5 Black women serving. And in May, we'll be swearing in the 6th. So we have to celebrate the gains we've made from when Shirley Chisholm stood in Brooklyn and said, we need unbought and unbought leadership, to where we are now, to still understand that Black women, the 23 million Black women in this country, are still underrepresented and underserved. But this is absolutely our season. And my favorite quote from the 2017 election cycle was from Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is now the mayor of Atlanta. And in her victory speech, she said, for all the little girls that can't see past their circumstance, I want them to know that Black girl magic is for real. So I think this is our political season, and it's about us truly harnessing our political power to move this country to higher heights.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So Sarah, as the president and CEO of Word, what does that mean to you? How do you use your platform to, support that idea that Black girl magic exists and Black women lead?
So first of all, I think that when we look out into this room, we see a lot of Black girl magic and Black women leaders. So it's not just us sitting up here on the stage who we are representative of the work that is being done in this room, and everyone in here is doing, I know a lot of you are doing powerful, powerful work. For me, leading Word, we are the only African American talk radio station owned in Pennsylvania, and one of only 3 in the nation. And I just wrote a piece about what it is to be a Black woman owner, operator of a radio station in a major market. And I think that what it presents is an opportunity to give voice to the many, many powerful, diverse experiences that exist in our community. And so I'm very proud of that. But one of the things that I think we also need to recognize is that many Black women, the women who aren't in this room, are still not just underrepresented in the political sphere, but are underrepresented in just about every industry and are underpaid in just about every industry. And so, there was just a report that was written by the Women's Media Center, and it was specifically about women of color in the media. And the statistics of women of color in the media is dismal. And I think it's about 50% of the nation are women. And let me just look at the exact statistic. It said, while women are more than half of the U.S. population and people of color nearly 40%, women of color represent just 7.95% of U.S. print newsroom staff, 12.6% of local TV news staff, and 6.2% of local radio staff. Now, that's all women of color. When you think about Black women in particular, it dwindles even further. So we are not represented in these rooms and at these tables in significant numbers. And then when you look at like the wage and the wealth gaps that exist between Black women and even white women, even though white women, their pay disparities, white women get 75 cents on the dollar, Black women get 63 cents on the dollar, and that's from a new report. So there are huge disparities that exist outside of the incredible momentum that we are having around Black women's leadership, but there's a lot of work that we have to do, and I think that it's our responsibility, the women in this room, on this panel, to really advocate for the women who are not in this room and to make sure that we keep them at the forefront of everything that we do. We've got to make sure their voices are heard as well.
Yeah, I can't say amen, but I'm going to say amen anyway. Amen to that. Not supposed to say amen. So before we move on to Latasha, I want to say, because that's 100% right, we need to actually raise the voices that are historically on the marginalized side, which are our voices, and speak for those who cannot speak. But I want to give a special recognition to some of those folks who represent those folks every single day. So State Rep Morgan Cephas, State Rep Joanna McClinton, Chris Rabb, Judge Nichols, a number of other folks in the room. If I have not said your name and you are here, please chalk that up to my heart, to my head, not my heart. And I really, 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 really appreciate you all being here because this is an important conversation. I tell people all the time, we don't have that kind of time, right? We don't have that kind of time, and we need to start focusing on this and continue to focus on this right now. Latasha, there are people who say that being a Black woman is hard.
Amen.
right? And so it is something that is spiritual. It takes away from your mental, even to just walk in a room and be the only one. And oftentimes it impacts our health. How do you, at New Voices, how do you support the idea that Black women lead?
Every day we believe that Black women, femmes, and girls have the opportunity to lead. I have the great joy of founding and leading New Voices for Reproductive Justice, which is a national organization dedicated to the health and well-being of Black women, femmes, and girls. We did begin in Pittsburgh, but I want to let everyone know, and Sarah knows I tell people this all the time, I'm from West Philly. And I always consider this my great return to my city, my hometown. And but because the work that we began in Pittsburgh is equally important in Philadelphia, just as it is important in Cleveland, where New Voices also operates. And so for us, part of the reason why we began New Voices was because we did not see ourselves in the leadership in Pittsburgh, whether it was elected leadership, political leadership, community leadership. And so it was three young Black women, including myself, who went to the University of Pittsburgh, and a community elder that created New Voices. And we created it because we needed to have a space for our political voice, and no one was really making the connections, and now people talk about intersectionality between race and gender, and particularly around reproductive health and rights. So New Voices has built a powerful movement for reproductive justice, not only in the 3 cities that we're in, but across Pennsylvania and Ohio. And we have a very influential impact on what's happening in our capital and what decisions are being made about our bodies, our sexuality, our gender, our work, our reproduction, our ability to form our families. And so for us, we know that Black women are magic. We know that Black women specialize in the wholly impossible. And because we do those things, that is what people are just finding out. But that's something we've always known in our communities, because nothing gets done unless Black women lead it first. And so we see that consistently in the movement, the reproductive health rights and justice movements, that we're often the only ones who are in the room. And so we said that can no longer be the case. So for us, it's been about how do we develop new leaders? So from age 12 on up, in all our cities, we're engaging them through our voter engagement program that reached over 200,000 people in 2017. We do that through advocating for policy at all levels, at the local, state, and federal level. We do it through creating culture change. We just finished celebrating, or actually this is the extended version of our Women of Color History Month that celebrates us. There's nothing for Black women during Black History Month, and there's nothing for women of color during Women's History Month. And so we felt it was important to create our own month. So for me, Shirley Chisholm, she's my guiding star. I believe that she's still speaking to us today. And so we must heed her call to make sure that we continue to exhibit and display our magic and to lead when all others think that we are incapable. Thank you.
Oh, that was beautiful. Can you please share with us your website so people can find out more information?
They're all right there on the placard.
And Twitter handle. It's everything. So please, we want this conversation to go viral. Please, it's very important for so many different reasons. Right? So everybody in this room on your tables, you have a bunch of information, one of which is the social media handles of everyone up here in their organizations. Number 2 is their hashtags and what they are normally represented by, what they say and what they believe. And number 2 is additional information about Higher Heights. So please use that information, tweet away, Facebook away. I'm not a big fan of Snapchat, but if y'all want to do that, y'all could do that too. So everything is on your table. Excellent. Thank you. So this is powerful. I needed this. This is like food for the soul. So Marian Tasco, can you please tell us? So we talked about how difficult it is for Black women often to get their place and space at the table, but you have a history of winning. So how do you win? And how do you constantly, despite everything, and people, some interesting people too, may come for you and come at you, how do you keep going?
Because I love politics. Black women, you are strong. You do all kinds of things. You're strong in your work. You're strong for your family. You take charge. You run a business. Your family is a business.
Amen.
So when you think about politics, it's just another phase of life. I didn't get into it because I thought we weren't represented. I came to Philadelphia from Greensboro, North Carolina. I grew up in a segregated community. My grandmother, my great-grandmother, my aunts taught me to be strong and be self-reliant. So I came up to Philadelphia, transferred from Bennett College to go to Temple University to get my degree because I didn't have any money. So I worked hard and got my degree. I went to work for different places. I worked for men, but I always felt that I wasn't inferior. I provided what resources I had, my mind, what I could do to help make a difference. And so you have to have that strong feeling about yourself because you're no different. You know, the guys just have it all right now, okay? But I worked for Charlie Bowser. Remember Charlie Bowser? He was a great person. He was good to me. He let me have free reign to run programs at the Urban Coalition. And then I went to work for Bill Gray as his campaign manager. Now he didn't want me, he was going to be, he said, I said, what am I going to do? I don't know. He said, well, he had hired a man. I said, well, so the guy, asked the guy, did you get an office? And the guy was a very important person. He said, get an office? Me? So he left. So Bill Gray looked at me and said, I guess you're it. So I became his campaign manager. And for me, it was just like doing anything else. Get the job done. What has to be done here. And I had people who were coaching me and gave me leads. But I decided to run for office because I said, I need a pension. And Bill Gray is not going to be here forever. So I was always looking out for me because I knew that at the end of the day, I am responsible for my well-being.
Yeah.
I could not count on anybody to take care of me. I've had 2 husbands. One I divorced, the other one passed away. But I never counted on them to take care of me.
Right.
I had to take care, because this is the way I look at life. I happen to come here as a girl, but I have every right to do what I can do in this country. I shouldn't be discriminated against because I'm black. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't be discriminated because I'm a woman. I can do whatever I want. And that's what the people in Greensboro, the women I was around, taught me to do. I took on a job, a consulting job, to travel around the country to train women. During the 70s, it was called Women Making a Difference. And we went to some small towns in North Carolina, Colorado, California, New York, with gatherings like this. It was a 2-day training course, training women to run. But there were very few African American women in there because I think you feel that that's politics. But remember, politics impacts you from prenatal to beyond the grave. Mm-hmm. And you should have a voice in what's going to happen to women, as well as we think about what's going to happen to men. So we are very important, and that's my philosophy, and I think that women can do whatever they want to do. Nobody ever told me you can't do that. Don't tell me I can't do something. I may not be the smartest bug in the room, but I know how to get things done. And that's having faith in yourself, believing in yourself, taking on jobs that, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to sure try and do it and get it done. But you have to have that faith. So I think that women, you can do it. I always say, you have to learn the basics, but you can do it. And you might not always win the first time, but you will win sometime. And if you don't win that position, go for something else. Now, I feel proud of Philadelphia. We've got more women in city council, because back in the day when I was elected, before I was elected, we only had 2 women on council. Look at city council now. We have more women going to the state legislature. You have to have a belief in yourself that you can do it. You have to be able to make friends and raise money. That's what you need. Money, 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 money. Because that's what you need to get your message out. So I think that I have all the great faith in Black women. I really do. And I've met some wonderful women. They're doing a lot of wonderful things. But if you want to get into political arena, don't stand back and say, oh, that's politics. You are impacted from the prenatal to the grave. Some politician is determining what your life will be, what happens to you on a daily basis.
Sure enough. I always tell people, listen, politics is the only industry that impacts your life, whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not.
Kind of how the cookie crumbles. So, and thank you very much, Marian Tasco, because you've also taken under your wing a number of women and pulled their coattails as well. I can vouch for that one myself. So thank you for also being a voice to the younger generation and encouraging us. Yes.
And that's important because people say, well, you like to make people get these women. Well, if I'm working with someone and I see that they have the talent, when the opening came for the state representative in our area, I said, you have to run for that seat. She says, I don't want to run for that seat. I'm going to run for council. I said, but I'm the councilwoman. I said, so you're going to have to run. She was my media person, but she was a hard worker. She had all the characteristics. She's smart. She knows how to deal with legislation. I watched her work and representing me in that position. And I knew that she would be the person to move forward. And so that's how she got there. Brenda Frazier, who worked for me, was a judge. I met her in a vacuum cleaner store. And I said, you want to work for me? I didn't know her. She was a lawyer. I said, I need a lawyer. So she came to work for me. She became a judge. And so that's, we try to motivate women to move on. Don't stay. Yes. Maria Quiones worked for me. She moved on. Derek Green worked for me. He moved on. Only because I said, you gotta move forward. You have to, and most of my candidates are women.
No, I appreciate that. That's something that we have to really talk about, particularly generationally. And so I want to introduce Jasmine Sessoms from She Can Win, because Jasmine is one of those young folks in our city who are helping women to win and investing in them. So Jasmine, talk to us a little bit about what people could do on a local level and what She Can Win does.
Thanks for having me, guys. Man, let me tell you. How do you take this thing? I am not an anomaly in any way, shape, or form. When I look out into the audience, I see minimally 14 women that are moving the dial forward locally. Every single day. But I'll tell you this. So, Tasco lives up the street from me, so I get to talk to her pretty often, and I get to come to her kitchen table. And one of the things that we were just discussing is, don't be fooled that everybody has to run. There are so many different ways to get involved in politics, because sometimes I feel like, and especially as African American women, we say, I don't really want to be an elected, politics isn't for me. We want to check every single box. If there's 10, we have to check 9.75 boxes. Not many. They can check 3 and say, you know what? I'll figure out the rest when I get there. And sometimes I think we say, I don't want to be elected, so therefore I'm going to stay out of it. There are so many different ways. I'll never be elected. Not my style. I don't have the temperament. Anybody that knows me will tell you that. I don't have the temperament to be I don't have the temperament. You know it. But what I do have is a will to serve. I have 2 little girls, J and G. and they're 1 and 4. So I have a will to make my community a better place for them to live, work, and play. So what I do, I carry petitions. I do phone banking. I fundraise. I help women that I believe in get on the ballot. That is something that each and every able-bodied person can do. So you don't necessarily have to be in the forefront to support the efforts. Sometimes you gotta pick a background. Like you said, Council Lady Parker, she played the background until it was her turn. You played the background. That is just as important, because without those people, our electeds won't get to where they are. Joanna, am I lying? Where's Joanna? Reverend Clinton.
Right there.
Go ahead and play that.
Yes.
Sometimes those background people are just as important.
Preach.
Reverend Clinton says she needs more background people. Who wants to volunteer? That is just as important. And I just want to moonwalk back to a question. Black Girl Magic.
Yes.
Black Women Lead.
Yes.
More than just a hashtag. It goes back to what Latasha was saying. We have always been here. I remember when I was 6 years old, my Nana, she lived on 28th and Montgomery. She used to take me to go work the polls with her. I was 6 years old. She just passed away at 99. Wow. Black women have been doing this. The world just took notice. Yep. They just caught up to where we already are.
Yep.
So we have to keep moving it forward. So I feel like I created She Can Win really to create a safe space for all women. But I am a Black girl, so I focus on women of color to train, create a safe space to provide mentors for them not only to get into office, but to stay in office. So go get a clipboard, get a pen, get involved. You don't necessarily have to be on the ballot to make an impact locally.
All right. So I just want to sit with one thing, and I wish you guys could have seen the women shaking their heads like, amen, that's right. Black Girl Magic, that hashtag, and Black Women Lead, they've been around forever. It's just now part of popular culture, and everybody else is using it. So this is stuff that we've been doing every day. We popped out of the womb, ready to go. What we got to do? Right? That's how we function. That's who we are. So Glenda, please speak to us about, on a national level, what are you seeing? Last year, you guys commissioned a report that highlighted what some of the trials, tribulations, and obstacles were for Black women coming into office. But we're seeing some names, Lauren Underwood being one of them, and a couple of other folks throughout the country who are beating down everybody else and doing really well. So where are we right now with Black women?
I'm torn because I want to talk about my Nana too, girl. So I'm a Bridget. So at Higher Heights, we know that our hashtag, all of our programs are named after hashtags. So I just wanted to back up to explain why Desiree wants to talk about us multiplying this room. So we are convening rooms like this. This is our signature event called Sunday Brunch with Higher Heights, because what Black girls love to what? We love to brunch. And this year, the theme is called Taking Our Seats. So Shirley Chisholm once said, if there isn't a seat at the table, bring your folding chair. Mm-hmm. Higher Heights 21st century model of that is, it's not about squeezing our chair in. One, we define how big the table is. And in some aspects, we need to tell somebody to get out our seat.
Yes.
Right? Come on, get out that seat.
Yes.
And that we ought to be claiming our seats. In December, the world was like, oh, Black women lead. And again, as we know that. Why? Because I'm the great-granddaughter of Carrie Lee Dickens. She was born in 1895 and died shy of her 100th birthday. She dreamt a dream bigger for me than I would have ever imagined. She dreamt a dream that there were no glass ceilings. But that's not, we all have a Nana. As we were like, I want to talk about my Nana. We know that Black women lead because Sojourner Truth stood in front of a room, a sea of white women and said, ain't I a woman? Mm-hmm. We know that Black women lead because an everyday average Black woman sat in the back of a church, Fannie Lou Hamer, and got fired up and helped to register 80,000 Black voters in the South. But more importantly about the Fannie Lou Hamer model is she went to the Democratic National Convention to say we should have seats at the table. Mm-hmm. I know that Black women lead because what U.S. Senator sat in a hearing and made Jeff Sessions nervous. Mm-hmm. And I know that Black women lead because we have an amazing opportunity to change the face of leadership in this country, not just because we want to see more Black women elected, but we are some of the most qualified Black women running in this country right now. Lauren Underwood, a young sister right outside of Chicago, just won her election last Tuesday. Yes. She is seeking to represent a congressional district that is 3% Black. She's in her 30s. She's a registered nurse. People are like, I don't know if she could win Higher Heights. We were excited about endorsing her candidacy. She won that primary with 60% of the vote. Showing that if a white man can represent me and represent my interests, surely we should be able to represent a diverse district. If I am able to envision a Black woman in a White House, we need to build pipelines. And Black women have been leading on the local level as activists, as elected leaders across this country for years, and we actually have the ability to really change this country. For us, our whole model in 2018 is about electing a Black woman governor. In our country's 241-year history, there has never been a Black woman governor, right? And our report points to this. The report this year is called The Chisholm Effect. The status of Black women in American politics. You can find that on our website at higherheightsforamerica.org. And it's stats. You got to arm ourselves to know where we've been, where we are, so that we can envision and develop a strategy to move forward. So if we're going to elect a Black woman as a governor, we need to do what we did to elect the first Black president. Black women across this country became first-time political donors in record numbers in 2008. My mama sent her $3 a month to help elect President Obama. That same organizing model, as you know, we don't open our homes often. Right. But for Barack Obama, we had house parties. We picked up the phone and we phone banked. We ought to be doing that for the amazing Black women across this country. So Stacey Abrams is running for governor in Georgia and is seeking to be the first Black woman ever. We talked about this. We're doing a campaign, is that if you took out her pronoun and didn't have a picture, she'd be one of the most qualified candidates in this country. Yep. Right? She is Ivy League educated. She owns a business that has hired people from the community. She was the minority leader of her state legislature. Yet and still people are questioning, because we got to be what? 4 times better about her ability. So Black women need to kind of stand in the gap and say, not only do we have the power to elect our local electeds, because again, all politics are local and you need to be engaged in your local elections, but this room, coupled with the conversation we're having in Hartford, Connecticut, coupled with the conversation we're having in, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that we can move votes, money, and that we can actually change the face of leadership.
Yeah, we have to. We got it. So there was a report that came out that said that Black women spend $1 trillion.
$52 billion of that a year is in beauty aids, lady.
Yeah, 52. So I'm gonna just challenge the room. It's not like y'all ain't got it. Right? You got it. It's just how you choose to spend your money and what you spend your money on.
And one of the things, that is a hijack, because
I know,
is that, and the reason why we do Sunday brunches with Higher Heights, the pivot is if we just donated 1 brunch a month to our political stewardship. If you don't have a political budget, create a political budget. And this year, your budget might be a stretch for $100 for the whole year. This year, I'm stretching myself, saying my budget is X, and that I'm going to give X amount per month to not only candidates, but to political organizations. We have a fixed pie, and Black women have known how to cut that little pie up. It is just, we spend 25% more of our money in philanthropic donations. So our religious, our religious stewardship and our community stewardship, we just need to add a percentage of that around our political stewardship. We actually also spend, this is all Nielsen stats, we also spend 3 to 4 hours more a day on social media, which is why we're talking about these hashtags. So again, we can shift and change this whole conversation by just using our voice where we already are.
All right. Yes, please.
I'd like to say one very important thing is that we need to get our people registered to vote. Now, that is something that you can do.
Powerful words from Marion Tasco, yes.
A lot of money, or any money. It takes some voter registration forms, and you knocking on the doors, or standing at the grocery market, or someplace near the, where the popular place you meet people, and say to them, We want you to register to vote. And you may have a little blurb that gives them the reason, because people will say, oh, I don't vote. And I'll say, that's sad. I said, why don't you vote? And I give them a little talk about why. You going in here? What if you couldn't go in here? I couldn't go in this store when I was a kid. I couldn't do this. Talk about the gains we've made, because it's from the ground up. It's from the ground up. Voter registration is very, very important. And if you want to say, well, how do I get involved in this politics? Go work with a candidate who's running and say, maybe I'll do some voter registration. So by the time the date closes for registration, we'll have maybe 50 new people who will vote for my candidate. Because the bottom line is, how are you going to win? Yep. You're going to win, you need voters.
Got to align yourself with someone you believe with. Have to. Yes, Sarah, please.
Can I jump in? Because I think that, yes, we need to vote. We need amazing political engagement because we have these candidates who are in the pipeline. But we also need to look at the economics of politics, and we need to cultivate more wealth in the Black community. Because, as you said, Marion Tasco, you need money and you need grit and you need all it, but money is a critical piece of all of this. And we know when we look at this gun violence issue and the NRA and how they're just like, giving everybody the middle finger because they own politicians on the Republican side because they have the money. And so we have to, I'm just going to interject the support of Black businesses. We need to have the wherewithal to write the checks. And it's like we got to create that ecosystem because those wealth disparities are real. There's all kinds of studies that are coming out now that say that for like white people, their wealth is like $143,000 per family, and for Black people it's like $10,000 or $15,000 or something ridiculous. And so we have to figure out, as we look at the political landscape, we have to look at the business and economic landscape as well, so that when we have the resources, and then we have to be philanthropic, or maybe it's not philanthropic, we have to be strategic about supporting these candidates, but we also have to cultivate the ecosystem that's going to create the financial wherewithal in our communities to really be significant donors to these campaigns and support our businesses.
We have to build our capital. Latasha, what do you say about that?
Well, on Facebook Memories, which is always bringing up old stuff, I saw that I ran for city council in Pittsburgh in 2015, and it showed my announcement. And in a 2-month campaign, we won 35% of the vote. But what that experience taught me that has just really been so helpful for my path since then is that Black women, we cannot be afraid to talk about money. We have to ask for the money. We have to raise our own money. And I'm finding that in so many areas of our lives, not only as what has been brought up already, we have to ask for money. Politics is money. Yep. And the money is the power. So we have money ourselves and we have the people power to win. We have to just start talking about it and organizing our money to win for our candidates that we have groomed.
100%. I have to say that our company last year, DP Bell and Associates, we raised $675,000 for candidates. We were involved in 31 races. We won 25. And so part of that, though, was coming into rooms and saying, listen, I'm going to come to you because I know I see that nice bag you got. I see your shoes. So I know you have the money to write me your check, right? For the first African-American female mayor of Atlanta, for the first lieutenant governor, Black female of New Jersey, for the first this, for the first that. And so that's how we raised the money. We went into rooms with our folks who look like us, and we said, come on, this is the time. We don't have this kind of time to waste. Because other folks are doing it, and they've been doing it, quite frankly, and so we're kind of late. So I just want to end with this, because I want to get into Q&A. I want you guys to tell this audience here, and we have a packed, I wish you guys could see it on the radio, but you can't, so I'm just going to describe it to you. We have a packed house, and I want to thank you all for being here, so thank you very much. But I want to end the panel by saying or asking this question. Black women lead, what does that mean to you? This is a lightning round. What does that mean to you? And it doesn't have to be in politics, it can be in simple life. But when you hear black women lead, what does that mean? We'll start with Jasmine.
Let me just say this.
Oh,
Black
we'll start
women
with
have
Marion.
always-
Go, she's going.
Black women have always led. I grew up with black women in the church, black women in the sorority. But what do they do from those positions? In the church, they're doing missionary work. They're helping the community. They're sending kids to college. I got a scholarship from my church to go to college. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. They're not politicians, but they are working and they are helping in all kinds of ways. All right, all kinds of ways.
Excellent, thank you. Jasmine?
I'll keep it short. Black women have been leading, will continue to lead. We will, and we are the future. So when you think about, oh, I don't know, maybe, don't. Just do it. You've been doing it anyway. You're already doing the work. Just jump out there.
All right, Natasha?
When I think of when black women lead or when black women lead, I think trust black women, which is another powerful hashtag that originated in the reproductive justice movement,
Yes.
where it says, trust us to make decisions about our bodies,
Yes.
trust us to make decisions about our families, trust us to make decisions about our communities and our nation. And so that's what I think when I hear black women lead, and that we have the power and potential to change whatever we see in our daily lives, and we are building for the future. We say in New Voices that we are building the black reproductive justice future, because this is not about us, it's about those who come after us.
Yes. All right, thank you. Sarah?
I would say love thyself, and we have to love each other as black women. We don't have time or space to denigrate or belittle or gossip or tear each other down. We don't have any time for that. And so, but I also feel like we have to take care of ourselves. We have that responsibility, because if we are beaten down and broken down and we're giving everything to the movement or to our jobs or our families or to anything, we are not going to be able to lead or be magical or do anything. So we must love thyself and take care of ourselves and love each other.
Linda? Whew, that was good.
I know that black women lead in that we're going to be able to move this country to higher heights. So after the Alabama election, we had a board meeting. And as you remember, after the Alabama election, everybody was like, thank you, black women, for saving the world. And literally on that board call, we were like, side eye. Like, we've been saying this, under-resourced, underfunded, trying to pull this together. But a board member said, Higher Heights was built for this moment. Right? And organizations that many of you belong to were built for this moment, for black women to truly step into and harness our power. So we are happy that we've built the foundation of creating a political home for and by black women, but we need to create rooms like this to create the patio, the expansion, that we have all the tools we need to ensure that black women run, vote, and lead.
Excellent, thank you. I have time for one question. Okay, I'm sorry, maybe two questions, sorry. Okay, two questions, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Glenda, and she's gonna walk you through what we're gonna do for the remaining time.
Hi, first I'd just like to thank all the panelists. This has been a really, really impactful conversation. It's weighed on my heart a lot. I just recently deleted Instagram off my phone again because every once in a while you gotta refocus. The idea that we're just constantly inundated with the issues, whether it's gun violence or it's reproductive rights or whatever it is. And a lot of times our reactions and our emotions are driven by whatever the media decides at that time is the focus. And so, last week it was Kaepernick, but as soon as the media doesn't want to cover him anymore, it's on to the next thing. Get upset about this thing now. Okay, forget that. Now get upset about this thing. How do you approach prioritizing the issues so that so that you feel like you're being impactful in whatever it is that you're trying to tackle, whether it's legislatively, whether it's financially. How do you stay from getting distracted, moving from issue to issue, and how do you feel like you plan to? How do you tackle all of the issues? How do you organize that?
With very little sleep. Unfortunately, some of the work we do in New Voices is some of the most difficult and challenging issues of our times, whether it's around sexual and reproductive health, access to health care, LGBTQ rights, gender-based violence, on and on and on. Those are the very critical issues that are impacting Black women in our communities across the nation. And so for us, we had to be clear about what our focus was since day one and stay the course. Now, sometimes we would always have to shift our resources to focus on, say, incarcerated women and the shackling of pregnant incarcerated women in our Pennsylvania county jails. But sometimes we have to shift to environmental justice because there's an emergency alert and our water is unsafe to drink. So you have to build in the time to do the issues that are core to our work, our mission, but we have to leave room for the things that pop up. And the nature of our work is that something is always popping off. And how do we not jump from one thing to the other? We do what we can. If it's that we can give money for Black girls to go to this march on that was yesterday, that's what we did because we couldn't organize them for that. But if it's we need to bring elected officials, some of our great champions for reproductive justice are in this room. How do we build those relationships and bring Black women together in places like Cleveland and Pittsburgh? So for us, we cannot do everything, but everything we do has an intersectional lens. We're always looking at race and gender oppression in everything that we do. And that often will kind of bridge the gap if we can't do everything. And so that's been a way that we've been able to sustain, because we could burn out trying to address everything that we do, that we need to do. Yet Black communities, we don't have the luxury of only focusing on one thing. And Black women certainly don't have that luxury. So it's been 14 years. We celebrate our 14th anniversary March 16th. And so that's how we've been able to maintain, has been a focus, and knowing our theory of change, which is leadership development, policy advocacy, community organizing, and culture change. If it's not one of those four things, we can't help you.
I think we should go to another question. Is there any other questions?
We know you have questions.
For being here today, and I really appreciate everything that y'all said. Trust me, I'm one of the ones that's thinking about running. But how do you deal with the ones that constantly try to tell you to step back? It's not your turn. They my friends, and maybe we shouldn't. I shouldn't approach them in reference to my candidacy.
Well, so according to the research that Higher Heights does with the Center for American Women in Politics, there are barriers for women entering into political leadership. There are also additional barriers for Black women. One of the barriers for women is that oftentimes women aren't encouraged to run for office. Research points to Black women are actively discouraged from running for office. So then everybody. You just want
to be clear about that.
Financial resources are a barrier. Those are hard barriers to eliminate, but it is being able to have these conversations about the viability and the early viability of Black women. And obviously, I've worked on campaigns my entire career, so politics is a science for a reason. So it is about building a campaign and a pathway that makes sense. But we have to challenge our gatekeepers. So the Center for American Progress. Judith Warren did a study last year called Gatekeepers, and it literally broke down, navigating your local politics, your state politics, and your national political structure. So our parties are not necessarily structured in a way to be Black women friendly. So we need to like change the dynamics of what our local clubs look like. So if you're not a member of your local political club, Black women should join your local political clubs. And more importantly, we should be joining our local, state, and national political parties. Because when they start talking about in rooms about who they're recruiting, if they're people that don't look like the women in this room, you are not going to be able to fight for candidates that we ought to be recruiting for. So we have to change the structure and the gatekeeper, what gatekeepers look like, to be able to ensure that we are encouraging recruiting and training Black women to run for office.
Yep, you got to be in the game, folks. To change it, you got to be in the game. So we have time. I'm going to do one. Do we have time for one more question? No? Okay, we don't have time for one more
Well,
question.
you're also going to, and I think we're cutting away so the listening audience won't have this, is we're actually going to be breaking into an interactive conversation. And just to before we cut away, I just want to say that I spent a year and a half of my life here in Philadelphia in this process you're about to do. It's called a sister-to-sister salon conversation. And I was transformed by that process. It was at a time where the city was electing their next mayor, and they did this year of the citizen, where you did deliberative dialogues across the city around topics. You could go and do what's your vision for transportation for Philadelphia? What's your vision for education? And I was so transformed by being in a room with neighbors who I had just met about visioning what a city that I had just moved to and how it could impact the next mayor, that I took notes and kept those notes for years. And when we started Higher Heights, I'm like, I want to be able to develop the same process for Black women. So even though I lived here for a year and a half, and I actually never even actually lived here because I was on the road all the time, that this city is what birthed this sister-to-sister salon conversation. So we look forward to not only having a sister-to-sister conversation this afternoon, but being able to continue this across the city so that Black women can talk about the importance of our voices in the political process and our democracy.
Excellent. We have to. Sarah Lomax Reese.
I just, I want to encourage everyone who's here to really get to know somebody that you don't know in here, because this is a very, very dynamic room full of women. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is next Friday, March 30th, the Black Women's Leadership Council, and we have some strong representation from that organization here, Emma Chappelle and Joanne Bell and Dr. Jamie Bracey and others who are here. They are doing a membership drive for WURD because they want to support a Black woman-owned business and really in a tangible, constructive way. So that to me is, and yeah, maybe it's a little self-serving, but they came to me and said, you know, we want to do this because WURD is providing a voice for Black women and men. And we want to support that. And so I hope people will come out to the Marion Tasco Arms on Friday, March 30th, and it's at 13th and Lindley. We'll be there from Shirley Kitchen Way.
All right.
So y'all gotta be there. We got the Marion Tasco Arms at Shirley Kitchen Way with Black Women's Leadership Council. And you know, I just want to really thank them and to really encourage everyone to network and to get to know, because we've got some really dynamic people here, and I know that we're going to get ready to get into the breakout sessions, and I want to thank everyone for coming.
Yes, and thank you, Sarah Lomax Reese and WURD, the entire team, for actually taking this on and giving a voice to Black women during Women's History Month, and to this amazing, amazing panel of women who are lifting voices up, doing what they need to do in the communities locally, regionally, and beyond, and nationally. Please, a huge round of applause for our panelists. And of course, we want to thank South Restaurant. Thank you. We took the whole room, y'all.